What's up, guys? Welcome to Real Beats. I'm going to be showing you guys an easy starter style you could master, especially if you're starting out. If you guys haven't subbed already or turned for some homage, do so because it does help it a lot. Let's hop right into it. So I'm just grabbing a scale and I'm gonna just default to like the F sharp because this is my favorites. Okay, it's like my favorite range. Now I'm making this because I just want to tie up some loose ends on the channel and just have videos that should be up on the channel, because I feel like this style is a easy style to master, especially if you're someone just starting out and producing, because a lot of the modern stuff, the skill cap is very high, like making all these crazy melodies, because you have to know a lot of music theory and how to program it in the computer. But this style I'm going to be showing you is super easy. It'll get you familiar with stuff. So this will be more of a beginner tutorial, but I'm gonna try to keep it somewhat interesting. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, so now we're gonna start our little bass line for our melody. And the BPM, I say one, you could really use any BPM, but usually people that rap over these type beats like it faster. So 150 to maybe 180 is like a good range that you can kind of play around with for this style. So I just have 160. Okay, this is the piano, and I'm gonna try to keep this very broken up so people can click the chapters. So I want to focus on the bass line because I'm gonna keep doing this because this is the most important part. If you mess this up, everything else will fall apart. It may sound good, but at the end, something's gonna be messed up. So we start on our root, and to get to the bass line, and I'm gonna just show you right now, this is the bass line for this style, right? So it's basically the root, and then you would go down to these little notes, these half steps, okay, and do something like this, right? Very generic. You probably heard this in so many songs. Okay, so how to get here? So basically you just start with the root chord. So you just make this minor chord, skip over the note. If you're not familiar with chords yet, you click these stamps, and then you can go to minor and just place it on the root and it'll match. So now what we do is you can delete the middle note. Now, if you want other bass lines, you can keep these notes in, but to get to where we want to go, you delete the middle note, keep the top one, pull it down to 1 octave. So it'll be C6 to C5. Move this over, okay? And then you add a +1. A +1 is just an extra note that you like. So between these notes, you pick a note that you like. So it could be this one, right? But in our case, it'll be this one because we want it to be dark, okay? With these notes that are right next to each other. And that is the bass line. So now we're gonna go ahead and make a melody on top. All right, so now that we have our foundation or bass line, we're going to take this and move it down 2 octaves. So F5 to, let's see, that's too high, to F3. Next step, we take this F, okay, and we move it up an octave, and then we're gonna press Shift D. I'm not sure what the command is on Mac or whatever, but Shift D, or you could just manually drag it in. And then we're just gonna remake that chord. So remember that chord. If you wanna come back up here and place it in, you can. And then we take this F. Okay, this part is very important. People forget this. Take this F and pull it up 1 octave. So it's back at the F5. And now all you need to do, and let's just copy this over, is pretty much create a melody out of these notes, and you can add other notes in if you want to. So you could do something simple like this, just so we can play it out. Right, very simple. And you can come up with your own little patterns if you want, right? So I'm gonna just keep this generic one just because it's easier. And there we have it. Okay, and then you just add drums, but we have some other steps too that I want to go over. So let's copy this over, and then we're just gonna add variation real quick. We'll just do all this in one because it's super easy. So for the variation, we're actually gonna go up super high. So we can take any of these notes, and at this point, so it's not too repetitive, I would choose another note to like be a starting note. What I mean by starting note is it's starting first in the bar. So we can choose this C, really. So I'm gonna take this C and we can move this up. I think this will be good. So if we move it up to the C8, now you gotta kind of remember these notes because you know you can't see the whole thing. So from here, And what I want to do is change the grid to 1/4, make it smaller. And now you can kind of play around with these notes, right? And this is just super simple thing you can do. And I'm gonna just copy these over like this and use that F, right? You see the F, I'm gonna use that as the next. Now that's the root note, so I don't have to worry about it sounding good, right? Because it's the root note. So now we can play the whole thing. All right, and that is the melody. So now we can add like background sounds and stuff. All right, so here is our second piano, and I just changed the tone so it's a little bit more muffled. All right, so it's like a background sound. So for this one, we're gonna be using the same notes. It's just how you play them will be different. It'll be a lot slower. You can just start on your root, and from here you can just kind of use some of these notes. We can use both of these. Let's pull them up an octave. And then you can kind of play or slide them around. Maybe use this one as the last one. And let's reuse this F somewhere. Let's go up twice. And let's have it like strum all the way back. Oops. Okay, and then we can copy this over. And then we can follow the bass line instead of keeping the F, because our bass line went from C to C sharp, right? So let's do the same thing here. Maybe pull these up like this. Just add a little, I just offsetted it to add a little bit of bounce, okay? So there is like our background. Let's move that over. Let's move on to our little extra instrument. All right, so now we're gonna do our extra instrument. This would be like a counter or something like that. You don't need this for this style, right? We could have stopped at the first part, but I know some people might want to know how to add stuff. So if you are a beginner, maybe you started producing a month ago or a week ago, this will be helpful. So this is the VST I'm using. All right, so if you're not sure where to start with counters, and really you can start anywhere you think is nice, but a technical way is you can start with the same chord. So our first chord was the F minor, right? So let's go ahead and copy that in real quick just to save time. So we have our F minor. Let's go up. Now what you want to do is use the top notes as the second part, and this is a for sure way that it'll work. So I'm gonna spread this out just because we have two sides, right? So use this top one as the starter for over here. And then pretty much what you can do is, let's listen to it though. Okay, and then we could just use this note as like a for sure note to use, right? And then we could just copy this over. Literally copy it over and then just flip it. Right, and this way it's not too repetitive and it's not annoying and overtaking it. So what I actually want to do now is go over like some effects you can use on this. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so I just quickly want to go over some effects you can use. So on this instrument here, basically I have a reverb 2 on this. Now the goal here is to push it in the background. So to get that with this plugin, the main parameters you want to adjust is the low cut, so that obviously you want to cut out the lows. You don't want those muddying up everything. And then you want to keep this decay fairly low. You do not want this super high. And then after that, you want the dry and the wet to be about equal. And this will push it in the background, and you'll still be able to hear it, but it won't be like up front. So I'll show you what I mean. Okay. And then after that, just a melody bus. Now I don't use gross beat because it's not great for videos because it has a delay on it. So I use shaper box because it's like instant. So what I have here is just a halftime, just like gross beat, a little halftime. And then just a filter on the low, so I can filter out the low frequencies. So this is pretty much an EQ. So this is no different than just doing this I just did it in there because it's just habit. And we can even EQ a little bit of this, and now we have like a verse melody, or if we just want to use this as the main melody, we can. So now let's go ahead and move on to the drums. All right, so now let's do the 808 or like the low end. So this is simple. Everything is super simple through here. Let's copy the bass line, paste it, and this probably, yeah, it's too low. Turn this up a bit. I'm gonna shift D, and then pretty much you just want to play this, and let me zoom in out. You want to play this the whole time. Like, you want to play it a lot. You want this to be very active. Oops. Right, and you're pretty much gonna fill up all the 808 spots, and the 808 spots are just places where the 808 will give you bounce. So we're filling it up. And then over here you can make variation. I'm gonna just do something very simple like that. Okay, so that is the 808, and let's move on to like the kick and the snare and stuff. All right, so now we're gonna do the drums. I like to do the drums on a separate pattern just because like a clean slate. So we can put our snare in right here, and then it'll play down here too. Just turn this up a bit. Okay, and then the hi-hat, I'm gonna just do a generic pattern, right? It's supposed to be a beginner tutorial. I don't want to go into detail on a lot of this stuff. We can add our kick in. Add our little perks in here. And those are the drums. So now I'm gonna just play everything all together. I guess I'm gonna just leave the effects on. Alright, and that is pretty much it. Of course, we can do some mixing, but this is just focused purely on the beat. So it's gonna be it for this video. Hopefully you enjoy. Make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.